You could skip to the end of the video if you want to listen to a little description of how I've embraced this pose. Lunges at the wall require padding for the knees. In stage 1, the right shin slides up the wall. Left foot comes under the left knee, 90-degree angle at the knee. Hands on either side of the front leg on blocks to start. Inhale, push shin against the wall, telescope ribs away from hips. And as you exhale, lengthen tailbone down and begin to align the spine above pelvis, so eventually sitting up tall. So just check in with the knee before you come up and move slowly. It is a very deep quad stretch. In this pose, you can bring the hands onto the thigh. You can have hands cradling the skull for brain cradle. I love that variation because it allows my head to feel some sort of release, especially if I've got a lot on my mind. Another option is to have the arms straight up. It's a very strong variation. Sometimes it's a day that is feeling powerful like that, getting that big stretch all the way from rooting shin back to lengthening up through spine. Moving into stage 2, hands come back onto the blocks and the front foot slides forward a couple inches and then to the left a few inches. The hips come off the wall. Hands now come to the inside of the front foot on blocks and push the shin against the wall as you inhale, telescope ribs forward. And as you exhale, lengthen tailbone down and bring the hands more forward. So not necessarily down, but forward and down. You're always squeezing the inner left thigh, in this case, against the rib cage. So keeping the left knee aligned with the hip. So maybe coming down onto forearms on the blocks. If you're more open, it might be forearms or hands on the floor. But being mindful that the inner left thigh stays connected to rib cage. Inhale, push shin against wall, telescope ribs forward. Exhale, tuck tailbone to rise up, coming into stage 3. Stage 3 is nomad pose with the shin against the wall, so the left foot will come back in alignment with the hip and then the front leg lengthens forward. Big stretch for the left hamstring and for the right quad, now getting really deep into psoas on the right side. So it's a very lifted pose through the spine, hands on blocks on either side of you. And the hips will come off the wall, bringing the back thigh towards the floor. Inhale, telescope ribs up. And as you exhale, maybe sliding that front leg a little more forward. So taking breath here. To come out of the pose, the front foot will slide back towards the body. And turning towards the right, the shin will slide off the wall. And then setting up for a second side. So left shin comes onto the wall. Make sure you have padding under the knee. Right foot aligns under the front knee. Maybe hands stay on the block. Or after a few breaths, hands can come onto the thigh. So always feeling for pushing shin against the wall. If the foot does not have something soft, like what I'm using is really cushy. So maybe have a sock on the foot or finding something soft to put between the foot and the wall. So eventually lifting arms up, if that feels okay. Sometimes it's too much, so just finding a place where you can breathe deeply. Inhale, telescope ribs up. Feel that lift all the way from low ribs to upper ribs. And as you exhale, lengthen tailbone down and align the rib cage. To come out of the pose, hands come down on the blocks. The blocks will come to the inside of the front foot. The front foot walks forward about 3 inches, to the right about 3 inches, and hips come forward away from the wall. Tailbone stays tucked, spine long. Inhale, telescope ribs forward away from hips as the shin presses against the wall, and then maybe walking hands forward on the blocks. Front foot actively presses into ground, all the toes lift and spread. If it's okay, the forearms might come down on the blocks, but if it's too much, you just keep the hands on blocks. Inhale, push shin against wall, telescope ribs forward. When you exhale, feel for softening through the neck. To come out of the pose, push shin against wall, tuck tailbone to rise up. Stage 3, the blocks now come on either side of the front leg again, and the front leg slides forward. Back thigh starts to make its way towards the floor for that very deep psoas opener. Such a sweet pose. We're inhaling, telescoping ribs up as the back shin pushes against the wall. And as you exhale, sliding the front foot more forward. And the front foot is active, so it's either toes spread open, pushing ball of foot forward and towards floor, or a different stretch is pointing the foot and opening through the top of the foot. Two very different experiences, but they're both very sweet. The front foot always stays parallel with the sides of the mat, so reaching through that inner edge of the front foot. To come out of the pose, ground through the hands on the block, slide the front foot back, turning slightly to get the shin off the wall, and then sitting back and taking a moment, taking a few breaths here. These last few breaths I usually take to honor all of my past relationships, the experiences that were heartbreaking that led me to become stronger, led me to understand myself more, see my weaknesses, and be able to be a better person in relationship with others. Lunges at the wall. Lunges at the wall became a dedication for me. It was like a dedication to the strength and awareness that I've achieved through all of my heartbreak and losses of loves that I had thought I wanted or tried too hard with. And it's really a realization of all of the strength and awareness that I've gotten from heartbreak and being able to be on the other side of it, be able to be more free and to acknowledge my part in anything that didn't serve.